All right, guys, this episode is brought to you by Chexy. Chexy is sponsoring us. They're a great platform where you can actually get points for your rent. So it depends on what your credit card is, but you can get cash back, you can get Aeroplan points, Amex points, and more. It also helps you build credit, and you don't even get your landlord involved, which is awesome. You just create a wallet on their website, your rent money goes in there, and then it pays your landlord. So if you want to see if it works for you, click the first link down below in the description where it says Chexy, and it'll take you to the website, and you can calculate if how much points you could get, how much cash back you can get based off the rent you pay. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. If you are paying rent, it's probably one of your biggest expenses. And if you want to gain some credit card points or get some cash back to offset your rent a little bit, check out Chexy. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Brooke.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I know that you're excited to.
There's a lot.
I know. Anything that happens politically, Cortez is here early. Just so excited to
just
go
ready
through
to go.
it.
Okay, let's start here. So the Liberal leadership, it looks like it's Carney and Freeland. They've both announced that they are going to run as the next leader of the Liberal Party. That gets done March 9th.
Okay.
So here's a few things that I saw.
Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland are campaigning against each other right now for their own Liberal Party to be
exactly.
The
so they're the front
leader.
runners. Yeah. Like Christina Gould is also going. You probably never heard of her, but she's also going. I think she's the MP of Burlington.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she's out, but like I think she has like a 1% chance.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's between Mark Carney and Freeland. So a few things on Freeland that I saw. First was that, so she held her press conference. Mm-hmm. You have to watch this online. I'll send you the video. She holds her press conference, right? And it gets interrupted at least 11, 12 times by Palestine protesters. I don't know what she's done to piss them off, but like it was like they're kicking people out. Like at one point there's people jumping on stage like not too far from her. Like she's gonna have to get some more security.
No way. I need to see this.
Yeah. And then at one point there was two young ladies, and they all wear masks and cover their face, which I hate. If you're gonna do something, like at least own it. But no worries. But and then there was two young ladies who had a sign, but you couldn't see the sign fully because they had the font too big, or like it wasn't in the camera. But it was a complete disaster on her end for her announcement. Do
you think it reflects on her, or are they doing it for?
I don't know. Like
Mark Carney hasn't had his press.
He had a press conference. It was boring.
Okay.
Like he showed I'll get into him in a sec, but he showed up in like a Rolls Royce long limousine, and it was like, is that really like what the Liberal Party is about? Yeah, it was strange. And he what else did Mark Carney do? And look, I'm a conservative, so maybe I'm a bit biased, but he was sitting on the board of Brookfield Asset Management, which is like one of the biggest companies in Canada, sat on the board of Stripe. Not to discount any of these things, like he's obviously done really well for himself, but he's a banker.
Right.
So for me, it kind of is weird because Jagmeet Singh and Trudeau were always saying that Pierre's this billionaire bootlicker or whatever. But Jagmeet is probably worth more than Pierre, and Justin is definitely worth more than Pierre from his trust fund. So it's kind of like a weird argument. But yeah, so Freeland, one more thing on her, and then I'll let you speak, is that she went on CTV or one of the big networks, and she was saying she was bashing Trudeau, saying maybe don't fire your finance minister 3 days before she's supposed to give the economic statement. Maybe I'd start there. And she was like, I actually feel like now I can speak my mind and speak up. And I was like, wow. Yeah.
Because I heard that when I guess he wanted to move her, because he wanted to move positions, not just straight up fire her, that it was very amicable. And they left and they hugged each other. And maybe that was for show, because coming out and just.
Yeah, she came out firing. Yeah.
Publicly throwing.
And she said too, she's like, I didn't want anything to do with the $6 billion HST and the check give out. She was like, we needed our dry powder.
That
for Trump.
ended up costing $6
billion. It would have. I think it would have cost that much.
But they did do it.
They did remove the HST, but they didn't send out the checks. So I don't know what the total actually was.
The $250 check.
We're not getting those, I don't think. No, they were supposed to come out early this year, but obviously Parliament's prorogued, so that's not going to happen.
Wow.
So yeah, it looks like the two front runners for the Liberal Party they're just going to be Carney or Freeland. My guess is actually Carney now. At first, I thought Freeland, but I don't think so anymore.
Well, Chrystia Freeland's just more known too, and I think it's smart in a way. It's just a ploy to say these things and not take responsibility for the economic statement having came out and basically saying that wasn't me, that was all Trudeau. So she's basically
trying to distance herself
from that so that she maybe gains a couple more.
But so was Carney. Like Carney saying like I'm an outsider, but he was like a COVID advisor and an economic advisor to Trudeau. So he's not an outsider. That's just like, that's a bit disingenuous in my opinion, but he's got a resume for sure. There was something on him with the former Prime Minister of England or the UK. And she said that he's got dangerous climate policies and he prints way too much money and Canadians shouldn't vote for him. I saw that.
Very strong-minded on climate policies and the carbon tax. And I don't know how many Canadians feel about that.
Yeah. So Christia actually like remember she would say like 8 out of 10 Canadians she's like we live in a democracy. It was the one thing that she really retracted on, which I respected a little bit of her because I'm not the biggest fan of her, but she did say that we live in a democracy. We've heard Canadians talk. We are going to if I become prime minister, I will remove the consumer carbon tax, but keep the carbon tax on businesses.
Okay.
That was her stance. She was like, more Canadians they don't see the value in it. They don't see the benefit in it. So I would actually remove that. And I actually believe Carney said the same thing, that he would remove the consumer carbon tax. But if you tax businesses though, it still is a bit skeptical for me because does that mean like less people are employed? It kills their margins. X, Y, Z.
Right. Interesting. I think Carney will be the front runner.
So do I.
Against Pierre.
I think so too.
I don't know how much. I still think there's a big part of the population that doesn't want to see a woman prime minister too. I still think that exists.
You think that exists?
I think it does exist. As crappy as it is to say, I do think that.
I think she would gain a lot of votes from women, to be honest. Like I think a lot of women would vote for her who are, have those liberal values and stuff like that. I think
a lot of people that have liberal values or have had liberal values, it's so easy to switch these days, right? Because it's like, it's almost like they say what they need to win, right? And then whatever aligns with what you need at the time. Because I've seen even my parents, just from when I was a kid, they were conservative, then they were liberal, then they're back to conservative. So they've hopped a couple times. So it's interesting because the values of the parties change based on the policies they put out or who's actually in power. I think so, yeah. Right?
I do think.
Because it's not like a solidified value system that liberals versus conservatives operate on. Not anymore anyways. You've seen so many people flip-flop.
Flip-flop, yeah. Even Canadians as a whole. And I also think, so Jagmeet Singh was on CTV or one of them, and CBC actually, I think it was. And he said that, it was a great question by the anchor. He said, with the new leadership coming in, Mark Carney, whoever it might be, is there any way that they could persuade you to not vote non-confidence come March 24th when Parliament resumes?
Interesting. Wow, that is a great question. Great question.
And he actually said, he's like, I thank you for the great question. And I want to reiterate my stance as it was before. I will be voting non-confidence on March 24th when Parliament resumes. So whoever gets in the Liberal Party on the 9th, the election will be triggered on the 24th.
Right.
And
okay, so let's back up here. If in the non-confidence vote, if he doesn't vote non-confidence, then technically Justin Trudeau, having stepped down but prorogued it, another person in this instance, there's no deputy prime minister anymore because Chrystia Freeland stepped down. So somebody would actually have to be prime minister in Justin Trudeau's place until what would have been the election if there was no non-confidence vote up until September, October?
Yeah. So whoever wins on the 9th will become the prime minister of Canada.
Right. Until
the election happens. So technically an unelected person will be running Canada. Minister. Yeah. So Carney could be
the prime minister for a very short period of time because Jagmeet Singh will be voting non-confidence. But if he doesn't vote non-confidence, they're prime minister until September, October. So that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That was a very good one.
I really hope he sticks to his word. I mean, he's got his pension, let's be honest. And he was very direct in saying everyone has told me they've lost confidence in the Liberals and so have I. Doesn't matter who gets elected, I will be voting non-confidence.
I would like to see what benefits and risks he has for doing that. Obviously, everybody wants him to, and he kind of holds the power in that stance of calling the election earlier or not.
Yeah.
So I would like to see on the other end, because if Conservatives do win, which let's be honest,
it's probably going to
happen. How does that change Jagmeet's policies that he's put forward?
I think Jagmeet's just going to run and do what he can, because I just think he he can't vote non-confidence again. Like you can't come out and say this so much. How do you even look yourself in the mirror? Like if you do that, right? Like
Yeah, there would be a riot.
he couldn't leave his house. Like he would just be heckled all the time.
Yeah.
And
But it will be
everywhere
interesting to
he
see
goes.
so we technically will have an interim prime minister until the actual election.
It's going to be Carney or Freeland.
Once Parliament isn't prorogued anymore by the end of March. So from the end of March till probably May, we're going to have a new prime minister.
So there is a kicker. There was a I think it was a law firm or somebody sued and basically brought this to the Supreme Court of Canada. If that's what it is. I don't know. But anyways, brought it to the court system that we cannot prorogue Parliament, that we need Parliament to function right now because of our next topic, which is because of the tariffs.
Yeah.
So we actually might not have to wait that long. If it goes to the court system and they deem it to be unconstitutional, again, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my words as it is, but I think people get my gist, is that if they deem it to be not fair or, no, we're not proroguing Parliament anymore.
Would the Liberals just have to choose quicker?
Yes.
That would basically happen. So
they'd have to
right
pick
now, Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney have time to
talk about what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. To the
Get
Liberal
votes
parties
for the
where the
Liberal
Liberal
Party,
parties vote.
yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense. So they would have to make a decision quicker than the end of March.
I believe it's February 14th is when a decision's going to be made.
And then how long does that give the Liberals to make a decision?
They would probably have to go, I don't know the exact timing, but they'd probably I think it's the end of the week where the decision's to be made.
Okay.
And starting Monday, they'd have to go to Parliament. A non-confidence would be done. So I think in my mind, they're seeing this and saying,
they have to.
Wow, we need to make sure we have at least someone at the helm of this before this happens, or we're going to get Justin Trudeau at.
Yeah. I wonder how divided it is.
I wonder too. Yeah, I wonder too. I think Chrystia is just too submerged in the Trudeau legacy.
Yeah.
Where people just don't believe it. So I think if I was a Liberal, I would want Carney.
Yeah.
To stand a chance.
I think most Liberals will be on that same page. I do.
Me too. I think
Interesting.
So.
Okay, let's get into...
I'll read the first one here.
Okay.
So yesterday, the inauguration happened for Donald Trump. Congratulations to Donald Trump for getting back in. What a comeback. What a comeback he had. So Trump says 25% tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico could come on February 1st. So there was kind of this sigh of relief because he didn't talk about it.
Right.
And then he was in his Oval Office signing off because he did so many things yesterday. It was this, we're getting rid of this, getting rid of that, whatever.
Yeah.
And then someone asked him a question in the Oval Office and he said, I'm thinking February 1st is when I'm going to put tariffs on Canada and US.
He's a businessman, right? That's what you do when you want your best deal. So
100%.
That's a negotiation tactic, in my opinion. I don't think it's actually going to happen. I think that's what you say for the other side to be like, okay, what do we need to do, right? And get his best deal.
I think so too.
There's my opinion.
So U.S. President Donald Trump said his country could impose 25% tariffs on Canadians and Mexican goods as soon as February 1st, hours after he delivered his inauguration speech. Canadian politicians and business leaders breathed a sigh of relief, thinking they had avoided the damaging tariffs that Mr. Trump had vowed to implement for weeks leading up to his return to the White House. Several U.S. media outlets have reported on Monday that Mr. Trump would direct government agencies to remedy persistent trade deficits and ensure trade deals prioritize U.S. jobs. Canada is among the countries the U.S. has a trade deficit with, but he stopped short of imposing the 25% tariffs on day one, something he said he was going to do in November. Then he said, we are thinking in terms of a 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada because they are allowing vast number of people. Canada is a very bad abuser also. Vast numbers of people to come in and fentanyl to come in. So again, he's talking about the border and the drug crisis.
So when I was listening to all those listening and reading up on all those reports based on the tariffs and saying, because there's a lot of people in his own party that don't agree with his threat of the tariffs, right? Because it does affect us. It affects them so much too, crazy, because a ton of our exports are U.S. They're our biggest customer for a lot of goods and services. Okay, so when I was taking notes and just saying, what negative consequences could it have on the U.S. itself, right? Because he's big on, I'm going to support U.S. businesses to grow, but there are going to be negative effects, of course, to themselves if they impose tariffs on Canada. So a couple of them, just to note, is higher costs for U.S. customers because Canada is one of the largest trading partners of the U.S., like in the automotive, energy, agriculture. So tariffs on Canadian goods would increase the prices of many products for U.S. customers, from cars, food. So prices go up in that sense. Retaliation from Canada. So we could, like, Canada will have some sort of retaliation in terms of putting tariffs potentially on U.S. goods, which hurt American industries that rely on access to the Canadian market. Like, again, agriculture, manufacturing, technology, could lead to job losses and reduce revenue for U.S. companies. So think of like Canada and like there's a lot that go back and forth. It's not just us relying on them.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing here that I think people think the States is this massive country, way bigger than us in terms of their economy as a whole, but there's a lot that goes from us to them.
What he's able,
if we pull back, then
yeah,
or then we have to charge U.S. customers more money to account for the tariffs. So now inflation to them for these industries is going to go up, and then what happens to those businesses too?
So I will
wait. I have one more.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Last one is the impact on U.S. exports. So as Canada's economy is closely tied to the U.S., imposing tariffs on Canadian goods could reduce demand for U.S. exports to Canada, which is a key market. So we'll stop buying for them. So for an example, I've heard that, okay, Canada is going to stop having U.S. wines, right? And which is a massive one. And so I listened to my dad. He's like, it's fine. I'll drink French and Spanish wine, right? But that's a massive one alone. So it's okay. We're going to stop buying these things from you. And then that hurts that industry. So it's a trickle effect. So I really do think it's a kind of business ploy. Just I know he wants a couple things from us, and obviously that threat is major because it could affect us. It would affect them too. So you look at
it would hurt their economy for sure.
It would totally.
I just think it's gonna crush Canada. So I have something here. Scotiabank Economics put something out. It said if Trump follows through with a 25% tariff threat and Canada retaliates, the Bank of Canada, they believe, would have to hike 300 basis points. This means rates would hit 6.25%, the highest since 1995, which would potentially destroy Canada. And the reason is because inflation would increase so much. Mm-hmm. So what he's been able to do, though, and I don't know what his end move is, but the MPs are all divided, right? Yeah. Like Danielle Smith is saying, I am not going to tariff our oil industry because that's going to kill Alberta. Right.
Yeah. She's smart, eh? I like her.
She like, there's a lot of divide in Canada right now because she's saying, I'm not putting on tariffs. This is what I would do. And what she says is, I would just go to Donald and say, yeah, we need to increase our military. We're going to buy stuff. We're going to buy military equipment from to balance out the trade deficit that he's talking about. Right. We're going to buy more American products. Like find other countries that you buy from and just say, hey, we're going to buy there. This is what we're going to do to make this deficit more attractive to you. Right. And Danielle Smith has been saying, and I wasn't sure which side I was on, but she's been like, look, Stephen Guilbeault, Trudeau killed all these pipelines. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, they have like vilified Alberta and their oil industry. Like they have really not been good to them. No. And now all of a sudden, which is kind of ironic, is all these politicians who are like, we're going green, this, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, now we're going to take away our biggest resource to the States, which is oil. And it's like, okay, so now you're admitting we're the biggest resource economy.
It's ridiculous. They go in circles. They go in circles.
So they treated Danielle Smith in Alberta like, crap for so long. And now the golden goose that they treated terribly, they're saying, oh, we're going to take that away after you treated it so bad. So like, at first I was like, why isn't Danielle Smith on board to fight back? Yeah. And then, when I heard her talk and I heard how like decimated Alberta is going to get if she lets this happen, unemployment's going to shoot up. Yep. This happened before. Their housing dropped 30% in Alberta. And
when was that?
It was actually when Trudeau's dad was in power. Pierre Trudeau. Yeah, because he implemented something. I don't know everything, but I was just reading the tweet. But he implemented something against Alberta, and it decimated their economy. Like unemployment up, housing
was before
killed. People left.
Chrétien, right? It was Pierre, then Jean Chrétien, then Stephen Harper.
I think so. Yeah, Stephen.
Or
Harper.
Was there one in between Pierre Trudeau and Jean Chrétien?
I'm not too sure, but I know Stephen Harper had a long tenure. Like it was like 9 years, like similar to Trudeau.
Yeah.
So, anyways. I don't know. Like you made some great points too. Like I think the states are going to get hit, but it's just like
So on the other side,
we need Pierre Poilievre there. Let's be honest. He's probably going to win.
And he'll negotiate.
And then just go and negotiate. Like
Yeah.
if we need them to start talking because our government right now is not even like, I understand like the MPs are meeting and stuff, but how are we going to get anything through? It's stupid.
So just on the contrary side, just to understand why he's doing this, because people are like, oh, tariffs, he's big bag wolf. Well, if we look at like realistically, he's not the Prime Minister of Canada. He's looking out for U.S. best interests. So we talked about how it actually could serve and pose to be negative on some U.S. industries and actually cause more damage than good. On the contrary, why he is even bringing this up and what benefits it could have, these tariffs, are obviously protecting domestic industries. So like basically protecting them against foreign competition. So imposing tariffs on Canadian goods, he might aim to give U.S. producers a competitive edge by making imported Canadian products more expensive. So people in the States would then opt to buy from local businesses rather than importing from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one of his points. And then addressing trade imbalances like you had just talked about, and then leverage in negotiations, because this is a massive one. So what he wants, borders being one of them, a couple other things that he mentioned. So I do think a big one is leverage. Basically, like, the Trump card. It's funny that in Euchre you actually call it the Trump card.
Yeah.
He's playing the Trump card, right? So now we're like, that's wild. It is the Trump card, right? Like tariffs would cripple us, even though it does have negative effects on the States, which I do believe in these points. Like it would hurt them. It would
hurt their energy sector for sure. Yeah, because we have the crude oil, which is like the thick.
It needs to be refined though, and we don't have refineries.
So this is where, like when Pierre talks about it, and Pierre's sharp. You got to give him that. He knows a lot about economics and history and stuff like that. And he said, they asked about Danielle Smith, and he said, well, if Trudeau didn't kill all these projects, like he built refineries, he built the Eastern Pipeline going from Western Canada to Eastern side, we would be in a better place where we wouldn't have this scariness coming our way, right? We could be like, well, we can export, liquefied natural gas because we have that as a sector. We can get oil across Canada. Yeah, these tariffs suck, but we can refine the oil and we can sell it somewhere else to a different country. Yeah. Like it's almost like Trump knew that we're kind of stuck here.
Yeah.
And now we have internal conflict. Is he going for Alberta? Is he going to take Alberta? And I know this is a real estate podcast, but it all comes together because these tariffs are going to hurt jobs. Mm-hmm. Most likely, we're not going to see rate cuts because inflation is going to pop up. So we're probably going to see rates go up. The Canadian dollar,
if these tariffs happen,
if they happen, if February 1st is coming close.
I don't think it will, but if they do, that could change the real estate.
If people don't have jobs, they can't pay their mortgage, so we'll see more delinquencies. Rates will go up. The dollar will fall. The Canadian dollar will fall. It'll have weakness against the U.S. dollar. So overall, it's going to hurt the real estate market a lot. Mm-hmm. People aren't going to move. Uncertainty.
It's the economic uncertainty. It falls back.
I think house prices fall.
Again,
10%.
Okay, I want to, again, prerequisite that if this happens, this is what could be the result.
Could be. Yeah. We're talking doom and gloom here. I don't think it's going to happen as bad as what we're saying.
I don't think the real estate market has fallen this year because I don't think they're going to.
I think people, like I was reading this article that like Canadians are like $200 away from not being able to pay a bill or something. Like a lot of Canadians are like, they have $200 to their name. Like that's scary with what's coming down the pipeline. So save your money, be smart with your money as much as you can, and have like a little rainy day fund because you just never know.
You know what app is a little bit off topic? It's called Float. And every bill that you have per month, or even, for example, I'm trying to get my clothes spending under control. You give yourself a budget and it's like a digital credit card. It's like, okay, this is for food, this is for clothes, this is for hydro, whatever it is. And you give it to these credit cards. So it's like once that digital credit card of how much you allocated yourself is out for the month, like you're done for that section for the month.
That's good.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. Like if I want to buy something, it's like, I can't buy this till next month because
the app tells me,
because my clothing credit card, whatever, like leisure, let's call it. So I don't want to be vain. It's not like I'm crazy shopper, but it's like I allocate, okay, like eating out, for example, like if you give yourself $500 for eating out, like once you're done that, like too bad, you gotta. And so it just helps you get things under control.
That's good. Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, like you have a million digital, you can have as many as you want, name them, whatever, you put the money onto it. And once it's run out for the month, you're done for that month in that section.
Very good. I like that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's called Float, if anybody's interested in to move with you.
All right, let's move on here. You want to read the...
Yes.
It's Canada doesn't need bigger cities. I thought this one was kind of interesting.
Okay. Okay. 1 second. Canada. Okay. Canada doesn't need bigger cities to solve the housing crisis, report finds. It needs more cities. True. Increasing housing supply in big cities like Toronto alone is unlikely to do much for affordability, a new report by think tank CD Howe Institute argues. What we really need is more cities, it says. The report titled Making Housing More Affordable in Canada, the Need for More Large Cities, highlights a paradox in Canada. While we have above average investments in housing compared to other advanced countries, which have largely kept pace with population growth, house prices have risen faster. From 2010 to 2024, Toronto and Berlin led international major cities in house price growth, followed by Sydney, Vienna, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, London, and New York. While there are affordability issues in many Canadian cities, Toronto and Vancouver are feeling these pressures more acutely. The authors say that they agree with the popular strategy of increasing housing supply and reducing burdensome housing regulation to support more development. But they argue that solely focusing on major cities is inadequate because having more housing only there will attract people from less populated parts of the country, thus increasing demand. True.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because I think this has always been like quite the topic of conversation of like Canada not having a lot of cities. Because when you're in the US, like you can go to Seattle, you can go, if you do want to live in New York, it's obviously very expensive, but you can go to New York, San Francisco, Austin, Texas. Like there's so many cities that you can go to versus in Canada, you really only have like, Toronto and Vancouver. Alberta's, starting to become a hot place to go as well. But there aren't a lot of like opportunity cities where, real estate's a little cheaper, let's say, in Windsor or something like that.
Totally.
But I guess the flip side is like, is there a ton of job growth or opportunity out there?
That we're so far away from creating many cities. Like, do you know how much it takes to build a city?
Yeah, like a good infrastructure.
Subdivision?
Well, you've seen Hamilton grow throughout your career, and it still has its growing pains.
I know. Yeah. Well, definitely from when I was 16 to now, Hamilton's a different city, yes, but it still needs it takes tens of years. It takes decades to build a city. Decades.
Infrastructure, how do you attract businesses there?
Oh my gosh.
Like even we're talking about, maybe there is some opportunity right with AI, right? The AI.
Yeah.
The like whatever
just have
Kevin
AI
O'Leary's
out there
about.
Building a city.
Whatever Kevin O'Leary's talking about, the data centers, the AI data centers, like that could create a lot of jobs. That could bring people towards a smaller city.
Yeah.
I think too, like if Elon Musk has a good relationship with Pierre, which I don't get this whole billionaire hating on him. I don't know. Isn't he trying to solve the climate crisis? I don't know. Isn't this ironic? But if he created a gigafactory and used the natural resources it takes for a battery for an electric car in Canada, that would create a lot of jobs. So maybe somewhere up north in Canada, although electric cars do not do good in the cold. I can tell you that.
And neither do humans.
Yeah. But, if we did have some more cities that had that opportunity, I actually kind of like this article saying that. So, because like in Toronto, like it's so dense right now. Like really all you can do is build up.
Yeah, it's true. And people don't want that anymore. People want
There's a lot of condos, like even.
Oh my God.
Have you driven like North Oakville? Just
yeah, it's a different
There's
place.
So many condos.
From when I grew up there to now.
Who's living here?
Yeah.
Like I guess they're all rentals.
Yeah. Well, not rental buildings. They're investors.
They're like investors buying them.
Yeah. I've sold a few. I have a couple up, but there's a lot of competition.
Not moving quick.
No, like it's getting there. Like we're definitely.
Which is good, honestly.
Yeah.
Like obviously not for the person who bought it on a HELOC thing, but
Oh.
for renters, like I'm a big thesis of that rent's going to come down this year.
Yeah.
And it's obviously shot up a lot, but some relief is good.
Yeah, 100%.
Makes it a bit more affordable if you're like dual income couple, or getting a roommate is doable as well. So, last topic here. It's so funny. Like usually this was the biggest headline in Canada, but Canadian inflation ticks down to 1.8%.
Oh.
With the help of the GST holiday. So Canadian inflation rate dropped to 1.8%, which is under the 2% target in December from 1.9% earlier. As the impact from a temporary GST break introduced by the federal government tamped down price pressures. Oh, if you tax less, it actually brings prices down. Who would have known?
It's ironic, eh? That part blows people's minds when you actually break it down for them.
Yeah. The tax break brought in on December 14th had an impact on prices for food, alcohol, beverages, children's toys, clothing, cannabis, and footwear. As a result, the tax holiday, the cost of food purchases from restaurants declined 1.6% year over year in December. Anyways, core inflation, the measures the Bank of Canada prefers to look at when making monetary policy decisions, such as rate cuts, that also declined slightly. So yeah, that's good news for Canada, given that we could see inflation increase because of the tariffs. Like at least we're under the 2% point. So we have like
we have room
to get back to the 2 to 3% zone.
Gosh.
I actually wonder how Tiff reacts to this. Like in the next meeting, does he cut rates? Does he just say, there's too much uncertainty?
I think we're going to see another rate cut.
Yeah.
I do. Well, when's the next meeting?
I actually don't know off the top of my head. It's got to be coming up. I feel like there hasn't been one since December.
The beginning of December.
Maybe it's in
I'm gonna Google this. Please stand by.
Yeah, Google it.
Next Bank of Canada meeting 2025. It is January 29th.
Okay, it's coming up. Very close. Yeah. So I wonder what he's gonna do. Like, because if Trump's gonna impose the tariffs on February 1st,
I know.
Like,
interesting.
He's between a rock and a hard place. Yeah.
So it's right after that.
Yeah. Like, how does he respond?
Because he doesn't know if he's gonna do it on the. I'm sure more will come up from now until then.
Mm-hmm.
But that's interesting. So he has to make a decision before Trump makes his decision.
Yeah. I feel like we all just need to digest like Trump getting into office and all these.
He did so many things yesterday. Holy
God!
crap.
Like, I mean, at least he stuck to his word of like what he said.
That's the other thing too. Is when he says something, he typically follows through.
Truly.
So even though I don't think he's going to do tariff, he usually does follow through. So
something, Like Canada needs to expect some sort of hit. But he left like the World Health Organization. He left the Paris Climate something, which I should look into that, what that even was. But apparently it's going to save the U.S. $1 trillion if they're not a part of this climate thing. I don't even know what it is. The Paris Climate Accord. I got to look into it. But he's doing a lot, that's for sure. So where does this leave Canada, I guess, overall? Stay tuned. Buckle up. It's going to be an interesting year. Yeah. I think, honestly, the number one thing that we need is enough of this prorogue.
Yeah, that needs
we need leadership. Yeah, Canada wants leadership.
Yeah.
Like, we all want it. Enough is enough. Like, Carney, Freeland, I don't care. Make a decision, right?
Yeah.
Let Canadians go to the polls and decide ASAP. We'll take it from there.
We'll keep you posted.
I guess that's everything I got.
That's everything I got.
That was a jam-packed session. I hould hope you guys enjoyed it.
I knew it was going to be jam-packed. I was like, gosh.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think down below. Obviously, these are just our opinions, but
I would love to hear what you guys
think. Love to, like, obviously, like, we're not always right. And if you say it in a nice way, I'll respond.
Say it in a nice way.
Yeah, like, oh my God.
Somebody told me that it looked like I put on weight over the Christmas holidays. Like, that wasn't nice.
That's just so rude.
Yeah.
I had something too. Like,
he said it looks like you what did he say?
I don't know.
Packed on a few?
Yeah, packed on a few.
Jesus.
Like, I actually did pack on a few, so like I know that, but I don't think you did. But I was like, I think when someone said to me, like, you don't know anything about economics. Like, tell me you don't understand. Like, okay, like that's a bit of a far state. Like, I know a little bit. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but
anyways, we appreciate the support.
Yeah. Those of you who like and follow us and do enjoy the content, so you can try and make better decisions. We appreciate that. And yeah, if you guys are looking to make a move in 2025, you live in Hamilton, Toronto, surrounding areas, that's where Brooke and I serve. So if you want to work with us or just see if we're a good fit, there's a Calendly link down below. You can just click there and see if we're a good fit for you. We'll show you how we can sell your house and what we can do to help you buy, or even just lease out one of your rental properties as well. We take care of that too. So yeah, guys, we hope to meet more of you in 2025 and obviously grow this thing as much as we can. So please like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and leave a review if you're on Spotify or Apple Music. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Take care. Bye.